The following program contains shocking quotes from America's founding fathers. If you suffer from time spent in public schools, Randall may not be right for you. Check with your guidance counselor.
Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on us. Jesus, thou son of David, have mercy on us.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be looking at EPA armed agents. I mean, after all, if you're going to have clean water, you've got to have real firepower. And American boots may be on the ground in Syria after all. Wait a minute, Obama. I don't know what to believe when you talk. And of course, the peaceful religion of Islam, through its spokesman in Al-Qaeda, is calling for random acts of violence here in America. We'll look at all of that on today's program.
It's time now for Down Home with Granny Jihad.
Allah takraba. Oh, boys and girls, this one is good. Muhammad said, a single endeavor of fighting in Allah's cause is better than the world and whatever is in it. Just think of what Osama bin Laden is enjoying.
Welcome to today's program, friend. I'm going to talk with you about Syria, whether or not boots will be on the ground, and the new study that shows at least half, I repeat, at least half of the so-called freedom fighters in Syria are intense Islamists, many of them a part of terrorist groups. Before I do that, I want to again remind all of us to pray for the victims of the Colorado flooding and the families of those people who were killed in Washington, D.C. by the deranged gunmen. May God give comfort and grace, and I just can only hope that of the multiple hundreds, over 1,000 people missing in Colorado, that some of them are just up on a hill somewhere, cut off because of roads and bridges being out. But the tragedy there is going to unfold for many weeks, and the glare of the news camera is not going to be there. It's not going to hold people's attention. But the heartache and the suffering is going to go on. All right, to Syria. Will there be boots on the ground? Putin, by the way, there is a great political cartoon in The Economist which shows a muscular Putin pulling a Trojan horse with Obama sitting on it, a weak little anemic Obama sitting on it, and the USA car is broken down, and Putin says, don't worry, Mr. President, I'll take you to the United Nations, all right? But it's a Trojan horse because Putin is going to end up getting his way, and Obama is not going to end up getting his way. So Obama got us into this mess by saying, here's a hard red line, right? Didn't honor that, and he's clearly not going to honor that. He also said, we're not going to put boots on the ground. And I'm telling you, if you look down the pipe, that's probably going to be another broken promise. Why do I say that? Who's going to go in and get the weapons? All right? If Assad agrees to give it all up, is it going to be a coalition of United Nations forces? Will there be U.S. soldiers that are a part of those coalition forces? Will their boots be on the ground to get the weapons? I mean, somebody's got to go and take them out of there. Or is Obama going to say, well, no, I made a promise to the American people that we're not going to put boots on the ground, so we can't be a part of any coalition force that goes in and takes away the weapons. He's not going to say that. So we could be in a situation where twice now the president messes up and then the American people or our American soldiers are the ones who are put at risk. We will keep you posted on that. One thing we know for sure, a recent study came out by, the man's name is Janes. I apologize, I don't remember his first name. He did an enormous amount of research and polling and looked at the 100,000 or so Free Syrian Army rebels. What he found was that there are about 1,000 fragmented bands. A full 10% of them, 10,000 of them, are hardcore jihadists, Islamic terrorists. And another 30,000 to 35,000 are hardline Islamists. In other words, they share the conviction with Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra that they want to implement Sharia law, that they want to have a caliph, they want to have the crescent moon of Islam flying over the world, and they don't want Christianity to have the freedom of speech, etc., etc. They just haven't branched out and terrorized other nations. But they are in line with what it means to have a true Islamic state. So that's just about 1/2 of the people that we're talking about arming are diehard Islamists committed to the implementation of Sharia law, which by definition means the destruction of freedom. We're talking about arming and aiding people who want slavery, not freedom, all right? This whole thing led by McCain and now by Obama, it's a farce. And we're going to commit the same idiocy that we committed in Afghanistan when we armed the Mujahideen there, and then they turned around and used some of those weapons against us. Every day in America, over 3,500 babies are torn apart by abortion. Shouldn't all babies, like this living, unborn child, have the right to life? Baby killing will only end when Americans see the truth of what abortion does to innocent children. You can help end this Holocaust by showing the truth of abortion in your area with a Face the Truth tour. Go to facethetruthamerica.com to set up a Face the Truth tour in your area. The babies and their mothers will be eternally grateful. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Welcome back, friend. Al-Qaeda back in the news. The Al-Qaeda leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, I love those Arabic names, he released a tape the day after 9/11 calling on Muslims around the world, especially in America, to, quote, bleed America economically. What he specifically said was that strikes, attacks in the United States, quote, by one brother or a few of the brothers, close quote, would basically weaken the U.S. economy and strike terror in the hearts of Americans. May I point out to you that the brothers who launched the terrorist attack in Boston were not members of Al-Qaeda. They were just devout Muslims. They just had access to the literature that springs from the Muslim Brotherhood and from other devout Muslims who explain in very cohesive terms why it is the duty of a good Muslim to participate in jihad against infidels like you, like me. So this radio speech, if Muslims in America, like the shooter at Fort Hood, like the brothers in Boston, like other sleeper cells, or like other individual Muslims who are just sitting up late at night reading the writings of Sayyid Qutb or Hassan al-Banna or Muhammad's words in the Hadith, if they're sitting there reading these words, slowly but surely, in that airtight circular reasoning of being a devout Muslim, all right, once you commit to the idea that Muhammad was the last prophet, the seal of the prophets, and that he speaks for God, once you accept that, when they get in that system, they come to the conclusion that it is the duty of a good Muslim to participate in jihad. And so this call from al-Zawahiri makes perfect sense. One brother, a few brothers. There's Muslims right now in America and around the world that have listened to that speech, that have read the transcript, and they're already weighing his words and saying, maybe me. Maybe Allah wants to use me to strike terror in the hearts of the infidels. He also said, look, let's have patience. Let's try and plan a big attack. But if there are random acts of violence, such as the Boston bombing, he said the U.S. is going to just spend more and more money on its own security, and we can bleed them economically. Not destroy, but bleed them economically. And he said, and I quote, as we defeated the U.S. in the gang warfare in Somalia, Yemen, Iraq, and Afghanistan, so we should follow it with war on its own land. These disparate strikes can be done by one brother or a few of the brothers. Understanding the American psyche. He's actually got it. I want to point out one other thing. Terrorist acts are not generally considered to be acts of war because they don't necessarily have in mind the acquiring or the reacquiring of a geographic area. All right? They're not trying to take over a country. What they're trying to do is affect public policy through fear. Look what happened to Spain. Al-Qaeda attacked Spain. Spain said, all right, we'll pull our troops out of the coalition in Iraq. And then Islamic terrorists left them alone. They struck fear with an act of terror, and it resulted in a policy change from the government. That's the goal of terrorism. And if Al-Qaeda is successful in one or two brothers here and there launching attacks against the U.S., they might get their wish, where the U.S. just says when it comes to Islamic stuff, whether it's in Syria or Egypt or Libya, where the American public just says, stay the heck out. And if we do that, then the terrorists will have prevailed in their mission. I'm not saying we should be in those places, but if we do go to those places under the theory of just war for the extension of freedom and liberty and the freedom of Christianity in particular, that is just. So we're going to have some really intense days ahead of us under the banner of the peaceful religion of Islam. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last. Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "Government is not reason. It is not eloquent. It is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master." Welcome back to the program, friend. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, might be coming to a town near you, packing guns, saying, "Are you drinking clean water, boy? Because if you ain't, we got a little something for you." All right, I'm making that part up. But what I'm not making up is that in Alaska, there was a raid at a gold mine. The EPA took part. By the way, all of the agencies that I'm going to talk to you about were armed, all right? Flak jackets, and they went to a gold mine. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, FBI, Bureau of Land Management, the Coast Guard, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and the U.S. Park Service. Your friendly park ranger coming to you, not to introduce you to Yogi Bear, but to see if you are polluting any water with your gold diggings. Right now, the best estimate is that 70 federal agents have between them 120,000 full-time officers authorized to carry guns and make arrests. 120,000. Friend, that's like a small army. And I want to emphasize this for a second. The Posse Comitatus Act, by law, says that the U.S. government may not use U.S. troops, federal troops, against its own citizens. Okay? Who needs the army when you've got 120,000 armed federal agents? Do you understand that that is the size of a small army? 120,000 federal agents from 70 divisions, from 70 branches of the federal government, 70 agencies are permitted to carry guns, drive those vehicles, wear flak jackets. Now, mind you, the Obama administration is seizing on this horrific shooting at the Washington Navy Yard to say that people like you and I should not be able to carry guns. And Homeland Security has been in the news for ordering 5 million rounds of ammunition. 5 million rounds of ammunition. For Homeland Security, who are you going to use 5 million rounds against? Do you see what's happening here? Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, they all said that, our founders said that the reason we have the Second Amendment is not simply for personal defense. It's to protect ourselves from government tyranny, to protect ourselves from our government making us all slaves. Well, when you have the government trying to take away our Second Amendment rights, when you have people from the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, armed, showing up. I mean, imagine going to work and seeing all these federal agents going around your place of work. Whoa, 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 we're just digging for gold here. We're not polluting. We're not an environmental disaster waiting to happen. You got to go to the Gulf of Mexico and worry about BP for that. So we see this two-headed monster steal the guns from the average citizen and arm to the teeth tens of thousands, over 100,000 federal agents, so that we can have a small army and no one can ever say that we have broken the law, the Posse Comitatus law. Friend, keep your eye on this. An armed EPA is a dangerous EPA. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. Welcome back to the program, friend. You might remember the name Senator Tom Harkin from Iowa. He holds an annual steak fry fundraiser. And it's the open secret that anybody running for president or considering running for president shows up at Senator Harkin's outdoor blast. Well, guess who was at the most recent one? I shudder to tell you, Joe Biden. Aw, shucks, Joe was there, kind of downplaying, and he was going for the themes of his potential 2016 run for the presidency. One of the things he really touted was his love of Christian orthodoxy and Catholic orthodoxy and his stand on marriage. All right, I'm being sarcastic. He said, I took a lot of criticism because I spoke out on homosexual marriage, but I couldn't remain silent. It is the civil rights issue of our day. This is the type of moral perversion that this man has. To take something that is an intrinsically sinful act, all right? The homosexual act is intrinsically sinful. The Bible says it is, all right? The Christian church has always taught that it is. To take that intrinsically sinful act and then try and elevate it to marriage is a perversion. It's the type of thing that makes heaven really upset and makes the earth tremble because of the potential judgment that could come. But he wants to be president. And he says he's a good Catholic. And he still receives communion. Let me point out 2 things. Number 1, perhaps the greatest ongoing scandal in the Catholic Church is that the hierarchy continues to serve communion to men like Joe Biden and women like Nancy Pelosi, who spit in the face of Roman Catholic orthodoxy and Roman Catholic bishops. They go to receive communion while their hands drip with the blood of the innocent. This is probably the greatest ongoing scandal that is happening in the world inside of the Catholic Church. When the pedophile scandal broke over 10 years ago, I turned to people and I said, wait a minute, listen, the deal was cut that they would happily look the other way while a few hundred children were being molested. That deal was cut when they looked the other way as tens of millions of children were being murdered. The very fact that the Catholic hierarchy was willing to serve communion to the proponents of mass murder showed that they had already cut a deal with the devil. And I'm not trying to be unkind, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's what they did. And so it would have been quite easy to allow a small group of pedophile priests to take advantage of and malign and molest small children, a few hundred of them or a few thousand of them, because they had already cut a deal with the devil. And the second thing I want to point out is this. People like Joe Biden are in power because good people aren't running. The Bible says in Romans 13 that the civil magistrate is the minister of God for good. All right? If you want to go into the ministry, why don't you consider going into government and be the minister of God there for good, so that we can throw bums like Joe Biden out and give them the retirement they so richly deserve.